Hi everyone and welcome back to a new video to celebrate the launch of Rare Beauty at Space NK, which means you are finally able to order Rare Beauty in the UK and in Ireland. I want to talk about two products from their range, which is the liquid foundation and the Stay Vulnerable blush, which I've already bought about 3 months ago, so I've already tested it and have a list of pros and cons for those two products that I want to talk about today if you are thinking of ordering the products. Because at the moment you are only able to order them online, I thought it might be quite helpful for some of you. I would say we start off with the foundation. So the exact name is the Liquid Touch Weightless Foundation, and I have the color 190W. So if you are looking to buy this foundation, make sure that you know what your skin color is first. So there are warm, cold and neutral colors. W is warm, C is cool and N is neutral. And first of all, there is a great range which I really love about it. I got a warm color and I kind of regret that I got a warm. I should have gotten a neutral. So if you are kind of my skin color, I do have it on right now. It can look a little bit orange for me, but I can definitely make it work. So I think it does look quite alright. In terms of the applicator, you have this doe foot applicator here. I have already used about, I would say, that much, so I'm down here with my foundation at the moment. It does last quite some time. I wore it quite a lot and I bought it about 3 months ago, as I said. So on the website it says that their foundation is a breathable foundation, which I do agree. I really think that it is a breathable foundation. It also says it's buildable medium coverage. With that one, I half agree. I do like the coverage, but in terms of how buildable it is, I'm gonna apply it with you in a second and I'm gonna show you what I mean, but I don't think it's really buildable. It says it's a serum-like texture with a mess-free doe foot applicator. Yep, agree with that one as well. Leaves skin with an even tone and smoother looking pores. Even tone, yes. Totally agree as well. I don't think it looks patchy in terms of the color application, and it does make my skin look quite smooth and it does feel quite comfortable. So I do agree with some of the points, but there are definitely a few things that I don't like about the foundation, which stay tuned. I'm gonna apply the foundation in a second and I'm gonna show you what I mean. And in terms of the price, this one is £26, so I think for a foundation it's quite alright. And then the second product I got is the Stay Vulnerable blush in the color Nearly Neutral. This one is £18, which, I don't know, I think £18 for a blush, for a single blush, is actually quite expensive. I mean, you do get a decent amount of product. It's 5 grams and I did use it again quite a lot since I bought it in November, and you can't really see that I used it that much, so it will last you quite some time. But yeah, £18 for a blush is, I think, definitely on the pricier side. And here it says it is a natural looking wash of color. Yeah, definitely agree with that. Mistake-proof formula. Yeah, absolutely. Super easy to apply. Again, stay tuned. I'm going to apply it with you in a second and we're going to talk about it in more detail. Gives a smooth satin finish. Yes, agree as well. Lightweight and water resistant. I did actually go to the gym with both products on and I was sweating. I was on a treadmill and I have to say, I don't think they stayed fully put. So I kind of like dabbed my face with a little towel and some of the product definitely came off. But it didn't look blotchy, which I quite like, because sometimes, you know, when it wears off on one area and then it doesn't on the other, so it still looked quite alright. And it also says it doesn't crease or clog the pores. Yeah, agree as well. But I would say let's jump into me applying the product, because you can see it a bit more in action and then we can talk about the pros and cons a bit more as well. So let's start applying the foundation first. And first of all, this is how the applicator looks like. So you have this little doe foot applicator, and I think that's really the first thing I would like to say about this foundation is that it's not the most hygienic, to be honest, having a doe foot applicator and applying it straight onto your face. I think if you have problems with your skin, it might be worth to have like a little palette or so, or the back of your hand where you can apply it first and then pick it up with your brush. To apply the foundation, I found that the brush works the best so far. So I do have my beauty blender here for this side, and on the other side I'm gonna use my brush so you can see the difference. But personally, I find the brush applies it the best. I think the beauty blender literally eats up too much of the product. The only thing with the brush is that it is very streaky, so when I apply with the brush I always have to go over with my hands and kind of like dab it in a little bit. And in terms of how the foundation feels, it already feels a little bit oily, I have to say. So that's something I don't like too much about this foundation, to be very honest. I'm gonna use the beauty blender now on the other side. But I normally am someone who prefers water-based foundation. So if you, for example, know the Chanel Aqua Lumia something, I can't remember the name of foundation, that's water-based, and that's the kind of go-to foundation that I have and love. So you can see with the Beauty Blender you get a much lighter application as with the brush. I think the brush is quite heavy and then the Beauty Blender is like a little bit kind of like a tinted moisturizer in a way, and this one is like a medium coverage foundation. So I'm going to go over with a little bit more product with the Beauty Blender, so I get the same amount of coverage. But yeah, that would be my number one, is depending on what you like, use the Beauty Blender or the brush. And then the second thing, as you can see, I am blessed with some spots today, which is perfect for this video, so we can test the coverage. It does cover it up, as it says, like kind of like a medium coverage foundation, so you definitely need to go over with the concealer afterwards. So this is one layer of the foundation applied, Beauty Blender, brush, and it is a nice foundation. It does look quite nice on the skin, but I have to say I don't think it fully melts into my skin. I do feel like it might be because there's some oil in the foundation. It kind of sits like a film on my face. I'm not sure if it comes across in the camera, but especially when you have like dry patches, you can't see it that much because my skin's actually quite alright at the moment, but if you have dry patches, it does like to kind of accentuate those dry patches and kind of cling onto them and make them more obvious, which I'm not too keen on. And especially if you apply 2 layers, it makes it even more obvious. So I feel like this foundation, I feel like with the Beauty Blender 2 layers work, but with the brush a second layer just looks really bad for me personally. I really don't like 2 layers of this foundation with a brush. It kind of looks like you're really cakey and you get this cakey look, which the foundation promised not to be cakey, and I feel like it kind of is when you apply too much. And then something else that I have to do every single time I apply this foundation is I have to apply some powder under my eyes, which I normally don't have to do, but with this foundation, I don't know why it does it. It starts to creep into the fine lines really quickly. So if you already have prominent smile lines or fine lines under your eyes, you definitely need to powder your face, and you need to re-powder your face throughout the day as well, because it does start to creep into your fine lines very quickly. So what I do, I normally just very quickly apply my concealer on top, and then before I continue with the rest of my makeup, I'm applying the powder and then I move on. And just for the sake of it, I'm not going to apply powder today, so you can see what I mean in a second. And in the meantime, I'm going to apply the blush. For this one, I prefer using my finger. I have tried both finger and brush, but I think that the finger works the best because it is kind of like a very, it feels a bit like melted chocolate when you leave chocolate too long in the sun and it kind of like melts under your finger. So what I'm going to do is I just apply, it looks like quite a lot, but you need a lot. You apply it on your finger, and then you just apply it onto your cheeks, and it's very easy to work with. I've applied it with multiple different foundations and it always layers really nicely on top and blends in super nicely. If you're looking for a blush that's super easy to work with, looks very natural, then this is definitely something I think you would like. But do you see how much I have to go back in and reapply to get some color out? So that would be something I would say that could be a downside for someone that likes their blush to be more visible and more prominent. So this is really just a wash of color and nothing else. I mean, the light kind of washes it out a little bit. Let me turn off the light for a second. I think you see it a little bit better now, but it is very lightweight, so don't expect anything else than a wash of color when you buy these. So this is the blush applied, and it took me about 1.5 minutes, and if I show you my under eyes now, you can see what I'm talking about. So you have the fine lines and the foundation already starts to creep in. Of course, I have concealer on top now, but I can promise you it is the foundation, it is not the concealer. I've tested it with multiple concealers, I've tested it without concealer. It always does that it starts to creep into the fine lines if I don't powder, and even if I powder, it does creep in after, I would say, half an hour after I powdered. Another good example is on my eyelids where I didn't put any concealer. I mean, you wouldn't always put it onto your eyelid, of course, but it just shows how it creeps into the lines and kind of like separates and looks a little bit weird. So that is definitely something you have to be aware of. If this is something that bothers you or you struggle anyway with, then that foundation might not be for you. Okay, I'm gonna quickly finish off my makeup and we see each other again in a second. So summing up the pros and cons of the 2 products, starting with the foundation. So the foundation, I would say I give a 7 out of 10. The reasons why I deduct 3 points are, first of all, the fact that it does crease quite easily. I did actually take a clip, which I'm gonna insert here. I wore the foundation the other day and I wore it for about 8 hours that day, and this is how the under eyes looked after wearing it for such a long time, so you can see it does crease quite a bit. And another thing I don't like too much about it is, as I mentioned, if you have dry patches or quite dry skin, it really likes to cling onto those and make it really visible and obvious that you have dry patches, especially when you apply 2 layers. I think if you apply 1 layer you get away with it, especially if you use the beauty blender and kind of like really work it into the skin. But if we move on to things I do like about the foundation, because there are really nice things about this foundation as well. First of all, I really like the coverage of it. As you could see, I did have quite a few spots, and yes, they were quite red and obvious, so of course I don't expect it to fully cover it up, but it did quite a nice job, I think, for a medium coverage foundation. And for it being a medium coverage foundation, I feel like it's super lightweight on the skin. And I also like the finish it gives you. It's this really nice satin finish, so if you touch your skin afterwards, it feels like you have nothing on really. It just feels like really soft and silky smooth. And then for the blush, I do think the blush is something that you have to be aware of, that it is a wash of color. It's kind of the satin finish, so I definitely agree with that. It is a beautiful satin finish. But if I would rate this blush, I would probably give it an 8 out of 10, because the one thing I don't like about it is the wearability of it. So if you wear it throughout the day, it does wear off rather quick, I would say. So it is already super lightweight and you can barely see it on your skin, and blush does wear off over time, and this one is already so lightweight that when it wears off, it's gone within, I would say, 3-4 hours. Personally, I really like it, but I can imagine that some people who like the makeup to be a little bit stronger are going to be a bit disappointed with this one, because it is just a wash of color, as it says in the description. I think that was everything I wanted to say about those 2 products. Overall, they are really nice, but it definitely has some pros and cons, and I hope it was helpful for you if you are still deciding if you want to order it or not. But please let me know down in the comments below if you enjoy this kind of video of me reviewing and testing makeup for a little bit longer and then giving you a review about it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. That would really help me out to grow my channel and continue making videos for you. And otherwise, I hope I see you in my next one. Bye!